everybody, and welcome to my review of Equalizer 2, which is the sequel to Equalizer 1, which came out a few years ago. Before I get stuck in this review, a massive thank you to Bilsy and the crew from Radio Metro 105.7 for inviting me along to the screening of Equalizer 2. Really appreciate it, and don't forget, Gold Coasters, lock in those radios to 105.7 if you want some great music, awesome people delivering it to you, and of course, you know this Bilsy guy. He's alright. So this film sees the return of director Anton Fuqua, a guy who I would have really loved to have grown up with as a kid and be able to go around to his house and say hello to his mother Fuqua. And also Denzel Washington returns as Robert McCall, kind of an ex-CIA operative slash ultra badass who is trying to live a nice cozy life, giving up that whole scene, and he becomes involved in a plot with some Russians and becomes, this ultimate killing machine once again. In the second one, well, it's kind of the same sort of thing. This time around, he's like an Uber driver, although in this case, the company is called Lyft. And once again, look, basically, he just, comes across a big plot involving some people that he knows, and some bad things happen, and he needs to, well, equalize stuff. Now, when the first film came out, I wasn't really that inspired to see it. I recognized that Denzel Washington is one of the best actors of our generation and stuff, but I don't know, it just kind of looked like a generic action movie just from what I saw, and so I never actually saw it until recently when, of course, I got invited to the sequel, and I thought, well, I should probably check out the first one, and I really dug it. Aside from the third act being a little strange, the whole thing was really good. And it sort of reminded me of how Liam Neeson has become this big Hollywood action hero now. Like, Denzel Washington is in his early 60s, and all of a sudden, like, he's been given this opportunity as well. So there were some similarities between the films. So I went into this one quite looking forward to it. If it was going to be as good as the first one, then I was going to be perfectly happy. Now, ordinarily with reviews, I will tell you what I liked about it, I'll tell you what I didn't like about it, then I'll give you a basic grade. This time around it's going to be a bit different because a weird thing happened when I was watching this film. So for about the first at least an hour, probably most of the first two acts, I wasn't enjoying it, and mainly because it felt like I was watching 3 or 4 different movies that were badly cobbled together. You kind of got all these different subplots happening, and at first it doesn't really look like there's any way that they're going to correlate. There were some aspects that were keeping my interest. The scenes where he goes in and has to kick some ass, and he does that thing where he looks around and anticipates what everyone's going to do and has his little stopwatch, stuff like that. That was all pretty cool, but overall, I just didn't get like a sense of a coherent story, and that was really putting me off in a big way. I was kind of sitting through most of that thinking to myself, this movie's going to be a 5 at best, and it's suffering from the usual case of a sequel just being nowhere near as good as the first one. But then towards the end of the second act, something weird happened. There was this complete shift. There was a scene, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, involving a kid in his house with some bad guys looking for him. And my God, the tension ramped up to 11. It was like this really visceral tension. I was feeling it in my gut, and it really grabbed me back into the movie. And then the third act is amazing. It's kind of a repeat of the first one in as much as we've got our bad guys, we've got Robert McCall, and he's got to sort of take them out one by one. But the setting this time around and everything, it was incredible. Visually, it was stunning, and just the whole atmosphere, the whole mood of it, it really grabbed me back in. And then, thankfully, most of the subplots did actually have an ending, a conclusion to them. There was one subplot, though, involving this old guy that realistically they could have removed it from the film entirely and maybe trimmed it down. The movie went for just a fraction over 2 hours. I felt like it probably did go a little bit long, but this subplot with this old guy, I don't see how it bore any relevance whatsoever on the story or the character development or anything like that. It just really seemed shoehorned in. And even some of the aspects earlier on in the film of the plot where he's kind of helping out random people or whatever, like, yeah, I mean, you know, they did seem a little bit random, a little bit sort of episodic in place, but I guess they did help to, you know, show what this guy's been doing, that kind of thing. So they were pretty cool, and they were fun to watch as well. So yeah, look, to be honest, you know, this movie skyrocketed in the third act, and throughout the whole film, I mean, look, it was competently made, like it looked great. Denzel's performance, as always, so good. Bill Pullman and Melissa Leo from the first film, they were back in this one. Fortunately, their characters had a little bit more to do this time around. I just kind of felt they were a little underused in the first film. This time around, they played a really big role in it. And Pedro Pascal, or however you want to say his name, from Game of Thrones, he was in this film as well, and I really liked his character too. Yeah, can't really say too much about him because there's a few twists and turns in the film, but yeah, he was really good. So look, by all means, if you like the first one, definitely check this one out, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Just bear with the film because, yeah, it does seem very muddled, it does seem very jumbled. By the end, though, it all pays off, and I think it's going to be a different experience watching the film again, knowing in advance how all these different plot threads and stuff come together in the end. So despite the fact that I was, you know, pretty much set on giving this film a 5 halfway through it, in the end, I really enjoyed the film. It's a worthy sequel, and I'm going to give Equalizer 2 an 8 out of 10. So, being that I've never done a review of the first one, I probably would have given the first one an 8 out of 10 as well, but kind of the opposite way, being that the first 2 acts of the first film I really liked, third act was a bit off, whereas this time around, yeah, they got it backwards. But yeah, both films I would say were on par with each other. So thank you very much for taking the time to watch my review, and thank you to everybody who's been giving Bongo a lot of praise for his first review of Skyscraper that I did recently. The response has been so overwhelmingly positive that I'm even starting to question whether or not my security as a YouTube movie reviewer is safe, because a lot of people want Bongo back. If you haven't seen that review, I'll put a link to it at the end of this video, so make sure you check it out. I had so much fun doing it, and I really cannot wait for Bongo to come back. I think he's going to be specializing in the kind of mediocre to crap sort of films, and I'm thinking this could be a good time now to finally check out 50 Shades Freed. So make sure you subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date with not only my reviews, but Bongo the Monkey's reviews. Thanks again for watching this one. If you've seen Equalizer 2, I'd love to know what you thought of it. How did you feel about the first 2 acts? Did you find that they were as jumbled as I did? Let me know. So go ahead, drop me some comments either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. Catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.